Randall, for highlighting the importance that it is to have that great relationship between our great public schools in Beloit and the business community. As you know,
Tim, I should point out that I tell my colleagues up in Forward Janesville, do you know who's a member of the chamber? Okay, one second. I was at Colac Center. That was my junior high school. And I remember walking and I looked at, and here was the office of the BDA. You know what it had on its door? The membership sticker for the Greater Beloit Chamber of Commerce. So I want to thank you for the great relationship that we have with them as well.
Thank you. And we are proud members of the chamber. Thank you. Our next speaker is Professor Kathy Greene from the Education Department at Beloit College. Kathy?
Classes at this age. It's a privilege to address you. I see many cooperating teachers and even a couple of former students in the audience, and it's a pleasure. You host our students, and we are grateful for that. Tim asked me to talk about, in particular, the Milwaukee voucher schools and the notion of accountability. It's all about accountability. In recent years, public schools and public school teachers and college and university programs that prepare those teachers, like the one where I work, have been increasingly scrutinized and held accountable. I find it curious that the very people who have demanded this increased accountability for public schools and public school teachers are in support of a voucher program that has had little to no accountability, a program that so far, and with nothing to show that it has been successful, has already cost Wisconsin taxpayers $1.5 billion. Hear, hear. To paraphrase Diane Ravitch, historian of education and research professor of education at New York University, if vouchers were the answer, Milwaukee should be at the top of the nation's urban districts. But it is not. Why? Because vouchers are not the answer. Milwaukee's voucher program started in 1990 with 341 low-income students in 7 schools. Now in its 23rd year, the Milwaukee taxpayer-funded private school choice program has almost 25,000 students in 113 private schools. If it were a school district, it would be the 3rd largest district in the state, just after the Milwaukee Public Schools and the Madison School District. In 2006, Barbara Miner wrote about the Milwaukee voucher proponents' continuing push for expansion. When the program began in 1990, voucher schools could only have 49% of their students receiving publicly funded vouchers. The theory was that the schools could still be considered private, and that the private paying students could help ensure quality. In addition, a cap was set, and the number of voucher slots could not exceed 1.5% of the enrollment of Milwaukee public schools. By 1995, schools were allowed to be 100% dependent on voucher students and public dollars. In 1998, religious schools were allowed to participate, and voucher enrollment was allowed to grow to 15% of the Milwaukee public school enrollment, about 15,000 students. Now, by 2005, enrollment was approaching that 15,000 student limit, and voucher supporters once again went to the state legislature demanding expansion. Once again, the legislature complied, and the program was allowed to grow to 22,500 students. In addition, it loosened income guidelines, so families with incomes at 220% of the federal poverty level were eligible for vouchers. As Bob Peterson, teacher and education blogger in Milwaukee, reported last year, a few days after Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker's January 25th State of the State speech, during which Walker repeated his pledge that every school receiving public funds would be rated by a fair, objective, and transparent system, Walker lifted the cap on voucher enrollment, allowed families earning up to 300% of the poverty level to receive vouchers, expanded vouchers beyond Milwaukee to include the city of Racine, and permitted high schools to charge additional tuition to high-income families. Also from Peterson, he said, the issue fundamentally is true public accountability. Voucher supporters have consistently subverted demands for public oversight and access to data. Not just test scores, but suspensions and expulsions, attendance, and teacher qualifications. To this day, public accountability for Milwaukee's voucher schools is minimal. To put it simply, public schools which are publicly funded are increasingly accountable to the public. Voucher schools, which are also publicly funded, are accountable to no one. To break it down, voucher schools have not had to give the same test to its students. Voucher schools have not had to release the results of the tests they do give. Voucher schools have not had to be accredited. Voucher schools have not had to hire certified teachers, in some cases not even college graduates. Some voucher schools have had zero students paying private tuition. Voucher schools have not had to respect the constitutional rights of students, such as free speech and due process. As a result, voucher schools can suspend or expel students at will. Voucher schools have not had to abide by state laws prohibiting discrimination on the basis of pregnancy, marital status, or sexual orientation. Voucher schools have not had to abide by open meetings and records laws. They are not required to disclose attendance, suspension, or dropout rates. Voucher schools have not had to provide the same level of special educational services. Less than 2% of Milwaukee's private school students require special education, in contrast to almost 17% of MPS students. Voucher schools have not had to provide services for English language learners. Voucher schools have been able to pick and choose their students. In other words, voucher schools have not had to answer to the public. Is this how we should invest our education funds? Is this how we want to squander the public trust? Conservative education reformers have packaged and promoted private school voucher programs as an expression of choice, opportunity, competition, and freedom, all words that resonate well with most Americans. But if by choice they mean sponsoring schools they get to choose which of our children they want to teach and which ones they want to exclude, and if by opportunity they mean sponsoring schools that can give unqualified teachers the opportunity to earn high salaries, to teach something they're not prepared to teach, and give unqualified administrators the opportunity to earn even higher salaries to lead those schools they're not prepared to lead, and if by competition they mean sponsoring schools that help people make a profit teaching our children badly, and if by freedom they mean sponsoring the freedom of voucher programs to discriminate, to operate in relative secrecy, and to work outside of the rules that regular schools have to work within, then I can't believe Wisconsin wants this kind of choice, opportunity, competition, or freedom. On the other hand, maintaining public schools is an expression of the commitment to keep our communities strong and to make them stronger. Support for the American ideal of equality of opportunity for all of our children, and a completely rational desire to invest in the people and institutions that have the longest history of public accountability, real public schools and the people who work in them. This is where Wisconsin needs to keep our investment.